Hey, this is Schuylar from He Is Legend, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious Podcast.
One, two, three, four. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast. The Brutally Delicious Podcast.
How's it going, brother?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well.
You
Sorry about last time.
Oh,
I
no
got
worries.
tied up.
It all happens, and it's no worries at all. Are you guys in between?
Yeah, man.
You're in between runs right now?
Yeah. We just got back from Australia, prepping up for this run with Greyhaven. Some shows out in Texas and around the Midwest.
What was the Australia run like?
It was beautiful, man. Beautiful. We got along great with the lads and Hammers and yeah, we had a great time. You know, it's they were just very thorough and they took care of us in a really decent way. So
Not the first time you've been there, though, right?
first time we've worked with these guys, but no, not the first time we've been. We went Soundwave in 2015, I think it was, or 15, and then back in like 2008.
Right.
So yeah, long stints in between, but it was a mega time.
That's great. And I know this has nothing probably to do with what we're talking about, but do you ever think that music would take you to all these places in the world?
I don't think I would have ever imagined that I would have traveled so extensively, you know. I don't think any of us would, but you kind of don't realize in the moment when you're younger, you know, to take it all in. So I'm fortunate to have been able to experience it more than a handful of times. So, but yeah, certain things, you know, I felt were on the horizon, you know, like London always seemed like, oh man, it's punk, you know, like gotta go there. So, I mean, I had great aspirations. Still never been to South America. Still never been to Asia. So
Oh, really?
There's still things we really would like to do. South America is huge on our bucket list.
I think South America, from everybody I've talked to and what I've read, they're pretty rabid metal and heavy music
metal,
fans
man.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to get down there. I mean, just like we grew up watching the Vulgar videos, Pantera,
Yeah.
and just seeing them down there, man, it's like crazy. Mexico City, you know, we've been to Mexico on a shipwrecked, but
Right.
didn't really play Mexico proper, and I'd love to. I love it down there. I love the culture and the food, the booze. It's
Everything, right.
yeah, it's great, man. I love going down there. It was such a magical time being in Mexico, and I just connect with that. You know, being from the beach and from the south, you know, very very similar cultural.
When you're out on the road, and I don't know, maybe on short runs you can't, but when you're out on the road, are you able to get out and like explore some of Australia or wherever you're at, or is it just too tight?
Yeah, some, you know, I mean, when you're fortunate enough to have a day off, like a reset day that isn't a total travel day.
Right.
So yeah, we did get, you know, we wandered. Sorry, I got a throat in my frog.
No worries.
Brisk. Yeah, so like we cruised around the beach at the Gold Coast on the day we got there. We had a day off just to kind of acclimate to the time, and then it's such a far journey to Perth from the rest of the eastern cities. So we got there early, you know. So we had 2 days basically on either side of the show to really explore, and we went and saw a big botanical garden, you know, and we like to wander and see some nature.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So He Is Legend, Endless Hallway came out, I guess, back in November. What's been the response to it so far?
Coming out at such a strange time, you know, it's cool to see that our fans like dug what happened and what we had to offer from that time of COVID, you know, and being away But I don't think any of us really knew what to expect. We just knew we had an album to put out, had an album to deliver. But yeah, the response has been great, and the people seem to dig the songs. I mean, things are, it's fun. It's really, they're super energetic, like very fast paced tunes. So definitely interesting to play live,
Right.
And some of these tunes were like the first time we'd ever played them was on Australia in Australia. So yeah, it's cool, because it's kind of a gambit. You just play it, see if they like it. If it goes over well, you keep it in the set, So
when you when we were all going through the pandemic and those years, nobody had a crystal ball. Were you ever worried that it may not happen again? You may not play again, or you may not, or was that not a thing?
I don't think I ever thought that we wouldn't play again. I don't think that like really. I mean, there were times where everything felt hopeless. I was more concerned with like how different it would be when we came back, because all the attempts at like normalizing a pandemic world show where like people were sitting in their cars watching shows, and that heavily live streamed, but like where people were wearing masks, like it had this stamp of like Depression era times, like so, and looking back on that, I don't know many people who are like, oh, I've got to watch that thing again, because it was, I mean, I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure some bands did live streams well, but it's no replacement for the real thing,
I'm trying to think back on the live streams, and I think I maybe only saw, one that totally stands out from Catatonia. Mm-hmm. They did one really early in the thing, in the pandemic, whatever you want, and it was done, multi-camera in the studio, absolutely awesome. Mm-hmm. Although Anders did say, hey, this is so weird saying, thank you to the crowd when there is no crowd, it's just the cameras.
And I listen to a lot of comedians who like, I mean, I have a lot of respect for comedy, because those people, like, they do what we do without a crowd, without people around, they travel alone. They're often in hotel rooms, so like watching comedians perform and then like, getting no real laugh or response. Like, I mean, it's just tough. It was a tough time. And I know things have been born of that are cool, but for us, we attempted to get something together to do. And when we were going to do it over the holidays, and it was right around Thanksgiving when like the CDC said, don't gather. Right. We're like, well, we're trying to get more people than would be at a normal Thanksgiving crammed into a room to perform. It's the right idea. And so we backed off of it, and it was just worrisome at times. And the things that I saw people doing, like none of them really spoke to me, and I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure there were great ones, but I just never saw ones. Like, I think the best one I saw was Post Malone when he covered all those Nirvana songs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was just like something so outlandish that was born out of like isolation and boredom, and like, but so cool and genuine, and like, so that really, I do think that one was great, but that was also, a different kind of circumstance and a different kind of thing you're watching. But I was just majorly concerned about like crowd areas at shows, and like everything feeling very like Mad Max behind cages and plexiglass, and that was what I was really worried about. It wasn't really until the Attila tour we did was really the first time that we were back in a club, shaking hands and passing joints and high-fiving, you know what I mean?
What was that like? Was it just like amazing?
The first time I've like, not to name drop, but I mean, so speaking of comedians, like I went and saw Brian Posehn, and I think I met him through Joe Truman, but when we toured with the Damn Things, but I can't remember.
He's a metalhead too, though, right?
Yeah, he loves metal, and he dug White Bat and like played it on his radio show. So I think that's kind of how we made the connection. And he's such a nice dude, and he's always giving us shout out. So we were passing a joint back, after his show in our hometown. It was just like, I never thought we'd be doing this again. He's like, yeah, I've been doing it every night. He's like, okay. He's like, yeah, it's so weird. I'm like, every time I'm like, should I be doing this? But I guess so,
Right.
But so I was like, oh wow, yeah, I haven't really thought about that. And then, being on tour, it's little things like that have changed, like, I mean, you're definitely not like standing in front of the venue with fans passing a blunt around anymore. I mean, maybe you are. We've gotten really far away from it now, so like feels like most things are kind of back to normal.
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely, I was worried about that. I was worried about the like corralling and very utilitarian form, or maybe that's not the right word, but just like, being more militant like shows,
like you see in Russia,
yeah,
back like from the 80s, like the Monsters of Rock or whatever that was, where they were all sitting in their chairs and they had the military lined up in the aisles.
Yeah. Like, who wants that, man? And you still see like the bit of craziness around the world that where that's kind of, it's like, man, I don't want that. I don't want to see that in like, Washington or whatever.
No, and maybe you could get away with that with some kind of music, but I don't think, heavier metal or hard rock or heavy music in general, it's not possible. Or it is, but it's not real.
I'm sure there's law and order at a Taylor Swift show, but I mean, we come from a long line of people who like to just show up, plug in and play. So
right.
And we still get off from just being able to be out in the crowd and like chat with everybody and like, so yeah, I thought there was going to be this, like, we were on tour with somebody and heard them say like, oh, you went out to Gen Pop or something like that. like they were afraid to go talk to fans. I was like, you're just in the fucking room with them like all night. Like, what? Go out in the bars, shake some hands.
Right. I mean, after all, they paid their money in. Right.
Exactly. And I'm a sick guy, so like I should probably be more concerned than anyone else. But I'm not wearing a mask on an airplane, and like I probably should because I'm a diabetic.
Right.
But I just roll with the punches. We were just on planes for 30 hours coming back from Australia. So I'm all right. I'm still alive. Maybe I got that super strain.
So do you have to prepare differently for like another stretch coming up here? You're going out for, I don't know, a few weeks at least. Do you prepare differently because of your health issues?
Mine mainly is dietary, and like I basically just have to eat more often, and so there's no real difference in preparation rather than just rehearsing a little more and like being a little more vigilant about that, and trying to just keep my voice up, but it's really you get your boots on the ground, when you start moving. So I think it takes a few shows to feel like you're in the groove, and then it's just then you're there. So but yeah, we rehearse a lot. When the opportunity is there, we're trying to be as tight as possible. So
let me go back to the pandemic, and I'll leave it alone after that. But your first shows out of the gate after all that, were you nervous, worried, concerned, scared, any of that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think our first show back was Furnace Fest of 2021.
With Living Sacrifice?
Yeah. We've known those guys for a long time.
Yeah.
But Bruce has always been such a great guy, man.
Super guy,
He's
yes.
always been really nice to us. So we did that show, and it was amazing, really great turnout, really, really fun. But I was still sick, I had been battling an illness for a while, and I got sick that show. So yeah, I was nervous just personally, like I guess selfishly, like more concerned with my own health and what was going on rather than COVID, because I worked all throughout the pandemic and got tested 3 times a week and was
Right.
Had to wear masks on set all day long around people. So like I gotten into that kind of the formalities of being in a COVID universe. And
Right.
I knew that if I was really nervous about it, then I wouldn't have gone. But it just seeing how the film industry tackled the pandemic, and then seeing how the music industry handled it when we opened, it's like 2 different animals. Like they were polar opposite. I mean, I literally was like getting tested 3 times a week. Had like basically hall monitors on set telling me to keep my mask on, be 6 feet.
Right.
Like while I'm drinking, like put your mask back on after you drink.
Right.
And then to get to a show where it's just like, well, whatever the fuck you want, if you feel safe, you're good to go. So that's kind of how it probably should be. And so it felt nice to get back into that situation. But yeah, it was kind of scary for a minute, and then you're just like, well, yeah, we're getting back to life. So whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And we just kind of went with it. I think there were instances where on the road, normally, everybody will kind of get sniffles and get a little tickle in their throat, and
you start panicking.
Now, well, now you're just like, who's gonna swab their nose first? Oh, we're all sick now. Who's gonna
Right.
do it? Nobody's gonna do it. Okay, we'll wait till we get home. 3 days later, we check. 2 of us have COVID. 4 of us don't. Like what? Okay, like how? Like what's the rhyme or reason? Who knows?
Right.
But I think we probably should have been testing ourselves more. But then, like, what are you testing yourself every night? Like, are you like, if one person has it, do they mask up and play? Do we cancel the show? Like, what do you do?
So if you're not testing, and if you're not testing, then you don't know, then you can still go out and play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's what everybody is probably doing on the road, but also, like, I think we're at a point now to where the strain is so weak that it's not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I haven't been following the science because it's fucking boring,
and you don't even hear about it anymore. So yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's I guess everybody's kind of fatigued with talking about it, but yeah, it's just it was a shitty time, and I'm glad we're out of it. But I don't think, like, I think the worst thing that happened to all of us is that, like, we're all ready for the next one now. You know what I mean? Like, the eyes of, like, knowing that something can go wrong like that is, like, in the front of our minds.
Right. It's like a post-traumatic
panic.
Stress thing, right? You're waiting for the next anvil to drop.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's a terrible way to live in fear, and I'm sure a lot of conspiracy theories are like, that's exactly what like.
Right.
But yeah, it's fun. It's fun to ponder, all those things.
Oh yeah. So is He Is Legend the band that is constantly writing, or do you guys just set aside time? I know you're busy touring. Do you get to write on the road, or is that separate from two separate things?
Honestly, it comes. I think it comes with the seasons. Booze is constantly just riffing on his own. And he basically has a bank of things. He's like, these are ideas I have, and then they kind of grow out of that. But more so, like, we obviously, like, the market's oversaturated right now, so it's hard for us to get on tours. So we don't really have a ton going on, and so we would be writing while we're home, and normally we don't, unless it's like a big badass tour. We don't like to tour in the wintertime, like much more than like a week or so, and it's hard out there, and we've done it a million times.
Right.
And, it's really hard on you. So we would prefer to be home, like, from Halloween to when the music industry comes back in February, unless there's like, we went on tour with Guar in December at one point because it's like, it's Guar, you know, so things like that we would scratch a conversation about, but as the Aussies say, like have a chin wag. We'll have a chin wag. I love that.
Nice.
But we usually, like in the wintertime, it'd be like, let's just write, and it can all organically kind of pour out of that. Because, from Thanksgiving to probably February, because of all the festivals in January and in the UK,
right,
the music industry, as far as like the brass is concerned,
it's shut down.
They shut down.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hard to get anything really done. And that was kind of why we were real nervous about releasing Endless Hallway in the late period, which, I mean, it's people release records in November, December even.
But you could capitalize on Christmas there too, right?
They say that, but I mean, I don't think that really works out for a band like us, but maybe. I think it's interesting to see either side of it, but it's like, it's hard to make it on like a top, 10 list when they're being made in November,
True.
So yeah, that's interesting, but we kind of, like to take that to our advantage if we're not on a run and just write. And those months, I mean, in the South here, those are beautiful months where, like, just coming into like the life rejuvenating from the winter. So, it's a nice time to be at home, just like getting it out.
So 7 albums in, when you guys do sit down to write, do you think about or intentionally think about not writing the previous record? You still have to stay within your wheelhouse. I get it because of your fan base, but do you think about that?
I don't think we ever think about that. I think sometimes we're like, we have to top it. I think every time we're like, we have to hit harder than the last, in whatever way that may be. But I don't necessarily think that it's like, do something different than that. Because on Endless Hallway, we A-B'd White Bat a lot because there were things we wanted to revisit. So, yeah, not always, but I think just out of sheer like wanting to keep challenging ourselves, we our sound kind of alters with each record.
Okay. And so I know you've got this run. What do you have prepared for or planned for the rest of the year? Anything you can talk about?
We got some things on the table, but we're open, trying to play as much as we can, so and looking forward to whatever the next year holds. But we'll be writing, obviously, when we're not on tour. But yeah, keep an eye out. He is Legend NC on all the socials, North Carolina. He is Legend NC, and we're if we're coming near you, bring it out.
I think I saw that you are playing in Richmond, so I'm hoping to get out in the next couple weeks. Cool. I think, right?
Yeah, bring that. Yeah, Richmond's.
Thank you so much for taking the time, my friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much.
I know we kind of meandered, but I like just talking, so.
Hey, man, that's what they're supposed to be.
Awesome. Good luck with